Well, despite the truck drivers' blockade, Formula One made its second visit to Magny-Cours, south of Paris, a new circuit that made its debut on the Formula One calendar just a year ago. Unsettled weather, rain forecast for the afternoon. 26 Formula One cars on the grid already for the warm-up lap, led away by the two Williams Renaults on the first row, Mansell and Patrese, Senna and Berger, and all McLaren second row. Schumacher's Benetton, Alesi's Ferrari on row 3, Brundle's Benetton, Capelli's Ferrari row 4, and all Ligier row 5, Boutsen just ahead of Comas, with an all Lotus row 6, Hakkinen ahead of his teammate Johnny Herbert. "72 laps scheduled of the 2.654-mile circuit here at Nevers. Michael Schumacher coming up to his place on the third row behind the two McLarens and the two Williams Renaults. Nigel Mansell, the only man to have won on this circuit before. He claimed victory in 1991. And the only man on the whole of the grid to have won a French Grand Prix in the past. He won two others at Paul Ricard in the 1980s. The grid forms up, waiting for the green flag to be shown at the back. There she blows, and the red light, followed a couple of seconds later by the green. Great start by the Benettons and by Riccardo Patrese. Patrese leads going into the first corner, heading down towards the big sweep of the Estoril curve. Patrese leads from Mansell, Berger in third place, Senna in fourth, Schumacher in fifth, Brundle running sixth, Schumacher up alongside Senna and challenging for fourth place. Blistering start by Riccardo Patrese, puts him into the lead, and chaos at the first attempt at the Adelaide hairpin. Senna and Schumacher in trouble, Wendlinger and Gasho also having a collision further back down the track. Gasho and Senna are the two who've come to a halt. Schumacher's able to regain the track and continue in the race in 24th and now last place. Schumacher riding up right onto the right rear wheel of Ayrton Senna's McLaren. The bulk of the damage, the more extensive damage done to the McLaren Honda rather than to the Benetton Ford. Schumacher able to resume, but he's into the pits for a new nose. But Ayrton Senna's French Grand Prix, he's never won this race, and he's not going to break his duck in 1992. McLaren, who really have not been able to compete with Williams Renault until the last couple of races, when Senna won at Monaco and then Berger in Montreal. And now they're having to do it with one man sidelined after that first lap incident. Schumacher running right at the back of the field. At the head of the field, it's Patrese from Mansell, Mansell from Berger in third place. Martin Brundle now running fourth. Brundle in his 91st Grand Prix. The Ferrari of Jean Alesi up into fifth, ahead of the Lotus of Mika Hakkinen, who's made it up from the sixth row of the grid into sixth place overall. Here comes Schumacher. And there is Ayrton Senna for the second race running. He can contemplate affairs from the side of the track. Gabriele Tarquini in the Fon Metal. His race is over as well. Meanwhile, it's Schumacher right on the tail of Ivan Capelli, who's in 10th place. So Schumacher unlaps himself from Capelli. He lost a lot of time following that incident with Senna and the subsequent repairs in the pits. And hurtles away from the Ferrari in that multicoloured Benetton number 19. McLaren's French Grand Prix is over. Gerhard Berger in the McLaren Honda, the engine blown. He's stranded at the side of the track. Well, problems for Ron Dennis to think about and overcome in the immediate future, because for the second race in 1992, the other one was Brazil, McLaren will score no points. Gabriele Tarquini walking into the Fonmetal pits to explain what happened. Here are two drivers with no explaining to do whatsoever. Patrese leading Mansell, and it looks as though it should be a Williams 1-2, but which order will it finish in? Mansell first, Patrese second, or the other way round? Patrese's determined, it seems, to hold off his teammate at all costs, and does so. Just Patrese ahead of Mansell. Well, it is rare indeed this season that Mansell's been headed. Meanwhile, Jean Alesi continues his pursuit of Mika Hakkinen. 4th and 5th places on the circuit, and you can see just how wet it's becoming. Olivier Grouillard is the back marker who's holding up these two, and perhaps will give Alesi the advantage to sweep past both of them. The oil flag being shown at the side of the track. Alesi then, aware of these slippery, treacherous conditions, but overcomes them well with a little twitch and a turn of the wheel, manages to control the car through that chicane, but conditions too bad to continue, say the race organisers. The red flag is out, and the race will be stopped. So 20 laps completed by the leaders. 18 laps will be the cut-off point. That will be the end of the first part of the race after 18 laps. The second part of the race will resume over 51 laps, and then the two results added together to give an aggregate conclusion over a total of 69 laps. So the rain really hammering down. The organisers waiting for a chance, a breathing space, an opportunity to restart. The cars with their engineers around them, swarming all over them, checking them over. Rain tyres ready to be fitted. It seems as though the circuit is drying out quickly enough for the field to restart on slick tyres. They were on slicks throughout that first 18 laps. Then the rain came down, and it all became too treacherous, too dangerous to carry on. After 18 laps, it was Patrese less than a second ahead of Mansell, Martin Brundle running in third, Jean Alesi just ahead of Mika Hakkinen. The grid forms up yet again in the order in which they finished at 18 laps. So Patrese in pole position now, Mansell on the front row but in second spot. The grid ready, the red light due, and the green, and Grouillard jumps the start blatantly there. Schumacher and Brundle, good starts in both Benettons. Schumacher attempting to thread his way through from right at the back of the field, but once again it's Patrese leading the way from Mansell. Brundle in third place, Alesi in fourth, Hakkinen in fifth. It's the way that they line up as they come streaming down towards the Adelaide hairpin. Probably the only opportunity on the track to pass, and Mansell takes advantage and is through for first place. But Patrese, can he get him back? Patrese is right there with him, with Brundle checking, and Schumacher once again in big trouble, and it looks like he's out of contention this time. Damage on the right front wheel, and that surely means that Schumacher's French Grand Prix is over. Right up onto the left rear wheel this time of the Modena Jordan, and you can see the suspension arm flapping around, and Mansell goes through into first place. Mansell goes past Patrese. Patrese seeming to wave his teammate through into first place, and Mansell leads. 50 laps to go to the finish, and Mansell, who was just a second back on Patrese in the first leg, has now got to extend his lead by that and a split second more to be sure of claiming the overall first place. Out goes the footwork of Aguri Suzuki. Out of the pits comes the Tyrrell of Olivier Grouillard. 10-second stop and go penalty for him. Into the pits comes the Jordan of Stefano Modena. So both Jordans are now out of the race. A highly disappointing first half of the season for Jordan, and indeed for Ferrari, because that's Capelli crawling around the circuit. No power there in Ferrari number 28. Rain tyres warmed up and ready to go, and they'll need them because that's Mika Hakkinen in the Lotus, slithering around on the track there. A big spin for him. He resumes the circuit just in front of Martin Brundle, who's running in third place overall in the Benetton number 20. The oil flag once again being shown, and Thierry Boutsen being caught out at the Lycée, the last corner before the main pit straight, and he's being pushed away out of danger, although it looks as though he's going to be a liability for a moment or two before they can get him into that pit lane entrance. And Grouillard on the inside of JJ Leto at the Adelaide hairpin, and well, both of them, it seems, trying to dispute the same piece of track as Mansell decides it's time to change slicks for wets, and this could be the wisest decision of the whole race. This could give him the advantage. He leads by some 20 seconds coming into the pits from his teammate Riccardo Patrese. It's Alesi in third place. Brundle having dropped back to fourth. Mansell out after a good, quick, slick pit stop for wet tyres. Thunders off down the pit lane. And he's ahead of teammate Patrese, who just appeared round the corner, round the Lycée corner, into the pit straight. In the back of the picture, it's Mansell still leading then from Riccardo Patrese in the second Williams, with Alesi running third, and Brundle into the pits now in the sole surviving Benetton. Brundle in fourth place and charges out, and that pit lane getting more slippery, more treacherous by the second. Brundle just inside the Dallara there as Patrese comes into the pits. So Patrese decides that it's also time to change slicks for wets. This seems to be the order of the day. Out he comes. Good pit stop by Williams. Pit crews have performed brilliantly at Magny-Cours. Two excellent pit stops. Patrese out on wet tyres, and once ahead, again ahead of the Dallara of JJ Leto as Katayama is pushed away. And Alesi, who's still on slicks, in trouble. He was all the way right, all four wheels over the grass at the side of the track. This is a big, wide circuit, and Alesi in the Ferrari powerboat just went steaming out right over the grass, just starts to lose it there. The back comes round, and he really is in big trouble, sliding all the way over the grass. But the advantage here, of course, at Magny-Cours is that the runoff areas are so wide that there's a chance for the driver to collect the spin, collect his own thoughts, and get the car back on the road without damage. De Cesaris, well, there's no way back for him from there because he's well in the sand trap, completely bogged down, and the Tyrrell is out. Nigel Mansell, meantime, having been running in the 1:17s when the track was dry, is now some 13-14 seconds slower a lap in the wet, and it's getting worse by the second. Alesi. Discretion, the order of the day. Into the pits and changes those shiny slicks for these well-cut wet tyres. And stalls it on leaving the pits, so this is a few more seconds lost. Alesi fires up again, and on his way out. A lot of standing water in the pit lane. Everybody in the pits there being sprayed by Alesi's Ferrari as he comes out back onto the track, and he will resume in fourth place. So Mansell leads from Patrese, Brundle running third, Alesi is in fourth. Moving up into fifth now is Eric Comas in the Ligier, and Mika Hakkinen. Mika Hakkinen is running sixth in the first of the Lotus cars. So Alesi, Ferrari number 27, the man who's given us so much entertainment this season, is out there and running after and chasing after Martin Brundle, who's got a bit of a problem on his hands here because he's tussling with Morbidelli and Martini, neither of whom probably have seen him through all that cloud of spray that's issuing from the back of their respective cars. Brundle looking for the shortest way through these two cars. The red light gleaming at the back of the Benetton, back of all three in actual fact, as per the statutory regulations in these conditions. Brundle forcing his way through, unfortunately without mishap. Could so easily, in all that confusion and rain, have been a major problem for Brundle. De Cesaris coming into the Tyrrell pits and explaining exactly what happened, and no need to ask what happened to Jean Alesi. Engine fire at the back of the Ferrari there, and the end of the French Grand Prix as far as Ferrari are concerned. What a dismal season they're having. Eric Comas, meanwhile, continues. He's well in the points for Ligier. Ligier on their home track. Of course, the Renault engine in the back of the Ligier, the Ford engine in the back of the Benetton, helping Martin Brundle get out of trouble there at the chicane just before the pit straight. He comes right out. There must be a bit of oil laid down there, probably from Alesi, which catches Brundle out. And, well, perfectly balletic, but not exactly advantageous for motor racing. Eric Comas. Riccardo Patrese in second place, and questions will undoubtedly be asked about why he allowed this man through, Nigel Mansell, through to take the lead in the very early part of the second race here at Magny-Cours. Mansell took full advantage and has driven to a commanding victory. Mansell back on form after those hiccups at Monaco and Montreal, and really has driven superbly here. It looks as though he's going on to his 27th Grand Prix win of his career. There's the checkered flag waiting for him. Mansell wins. 27 Grand Prix wins for Nigel Mansell. Congratulations to Frank Williams and his team. Mansell equals the record for British drivers set by Jackie Stewart. Everybody much relieved to get home unscathed in such atrocious conditions. Mika Hakkinen is going to claim fourth place on aggregate for Lotus. Eric Comas, a big wave from him because he's made it home in the points, and so too has Johnny Herbert in the second Lotus. But Nigel Mansell, 10 points, and the championship challenge is back on course for Mansell and for Williams Renault. Riccardo Patrese, a valiant second place. Another Williams Renault 1-2, the fifth out of 8 races this season. Martin Brundle home in third place. 3 British drivers in the top 6, 2 Lotuses in the top 6, and 3 Renault engine cars in the top 5.